Hello everyone, my name is Abhishek and welcome back to my channel. If you're working as a software engineer for an enterprise application, let me ask you a quick question. Do you really think your user details are secure? To be honest, if you're using a shared authentication system, also known as multi-tenant authentication system, the answer might be no. Your user details are not as secure as you think. The reason is very simple. These multi-tenant authentication providers, they come with two major challenges. First one, which is very critical, these authentication providers share infrastructure between multiple applications. So your application might share the infrastructure with dozens of applications or also hundreds of applications. So if one of the application is compromised, there is a good chance your user details are also compromised. Let's say one of the application is compromised with a critical vulnerability. Although there is a logical isolation, but still underlying infrastructure is common. So there is a good chance your user details or your application is also compromised. If you put infrastructure challenges aside, there is the second challenge. Multi-tenant systems often force update on the end users or people who are using these providers. This might break your authentication flow or it might break your login flow. This is other way why your users can be impacted. Now, these challenges can be completely eliminated if you go with a single tenant authentication system. In today's video, I will not only talk about a single tenant authentication system, but I'll also talk about a downloadable customer identity and access management application, that is FusionAuth. This video is going to be very interesting because FusionAuth is the only customer identity and access management with hybrid single tenant deployment that you can dev and test anywhere. I also have a cool demo for this video. Make sure you watch it till the end. Now, before we learn more about FusionAuth and before we look at the demo, I should thank FusionAuth for reaching out to us and sponsoring today's video. Let's get started. So what is FusionAuth? FusionAuth is an authentication system that is so modern that you can download it. So basically, you can run an instance of FusionAuth within a Docker container on your host. You can run it on Mac OS, on your Linux servers, on your Windows servers, on your Kubernetes cluster, and also you can go for a managed single tenant instance of FusionAuth on the FusionAuth cloud. There is so much about FusionAuth on the official documentation. For example, you can learn how to implement authentication features like registration, single sign-on, authorization, threat detection and security. But as a beginner, you need to learn about the following things about FusionAuth. These are the things very important for you to understand to get started with FusionAuth. Firstly, FusionAuth is the only downloadable customer identity and access management solution that comes with hybrid single tenant deployment model. What does that mean? As we just saw, you can run an instance of FusionAuth for one of your customer or for one of your tenant within a Docker container or on your servers. At the same time, you can also request an instance of FusionAuth on the FusionAuth cloud. If required, you can also go with the hybrid model. So you can have some of your tenants on your servers and you can have some of the tenants on the instances managed by FusionAuth cloud. Apart from this, FusionAuth allows developers, that is you and me, to add authentication features like registration, single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, authorization, and much more. But the best part, you can do all of these in minutes of time. Using FusionAuth, you don't need days of time, but you can actually implement them in minutes of time. Let me take an example. Imagine you are working for Change Bank. So you are working for this application. There are multiple features like products, security, services, about, and you are asked to implement login flow for this application. So right now, if you click on login, they don't have login implemented. So you have to implement authentication and authorization flow for this application. Without FusionAuth, you would definitely need, or if you are writing authentication and authorization login within the application, you would definitely need couple of days. But in the demonstration today, I will show you for the same application how you can implement complete login flow with all the best practices in no time. Apart from this, as I told you, it also comes with a single tenant model. This is the biggest advantage because majority of the authentication systems today, they go with multi-tenant model. That means your applications share infrastructure with hundreds of other applications. This leads to data concerns, concerns with performance of the system, security concerns, and also concerns with forced customization from the multi-tenant systems. Let me explain each of these in detail for you. Data concerns, obviously, because your application is sharing infrastructure with multiple other applications. So if you're using a multi-tenant authentication system, now on one of the nodes of their infrastructure, although there is a logical isolation, they might place multiple applications, one of your application along with hundreds of other applications. If one of these applications is compromised with security and that application does not belong to you, but still because of the underlying infrastructure, there is a possibility that your application is compromised. So end of the day, the user details might be compromised. Performance is definitely a concern whenever you are dealing with multi-tenant systems, whether you are managing it or someone else is managing on your behalf. Multi-tenant system always have performance issues because they need to timely be scaled down, timely be scaled up, and if anything goes wrong, it will mess your application's authentication flow or application's login flow. Security with respect to data concerns and also customizations. Again, this is another important point. Multi-tenant systems often force upgrades on you because you are not running this authentication system on your servers. You don't have control to it. So whenever they forcefully upgrade, you also have to upgrade your application with respect to login flow. As per their upgrades, you have to change the login flow within your applications. What if you are not ready for it at this point of time? You have no choice. You will be provided with a window, and within that window, you have to update your application login flow. But with FusionAuth, that's not the case because it's not only single tenant, but as we just discussed, you can also have it downloaded within your servers. Whenever there is an upgrade, you have time and you can customize the login flow as per your comfort. It also avoids data leakages and issues with noisy neighbors. Again, this is related to having multiple applications on the same infrastructure. So because of these reasons, single tenant customer identity and access management is gaining significance. And FusionAuth is the only one that supports single tenant hybrid deployment model. We will implement everything from scratch. Although I have this application running, I will delete this application. I will also delete the running containers and show you things right from zero. At the high level, this is what we are going to do. So without FusionAuth, this is how the login flow would look like. However, we are not going with this approach. Imagine if you have to implement login flow for this application without FusionAuth. This is something that you might do. In the user flow, when user clicks on the home page, user would see a login link or the login button, and that would show a login form. And this login form would be handled within the application. So as a developer, you would provide this login form to the user. User submits the login form, and you would also handle authentication logic along with implementing a database for it, storing the user details, authenticating user details against the database. Everything will be performed at the application layer, typically authentication and authorization. And according to the authorization, user will be displayed with the right pages. This is very complex, and as users keep growing, as your authentication and authorization logic keeps growing, maintaining everything within the application is too complex. But with FusionAuth, you can offload everything to FusionAuth. So this is how the logic would look like, and we will be implementing the same thing in today's video. So in this process, user access the application through the home page. User clicks on the login link or the login button. As soon as user clicks on the login button, in this case, application does not return the login form. So within the application, you don't have to write the login form, but FusionAuth would return the login form to the user. And user would fill out and submit the login form. Again, FusionAuth would take care of authentication and authorization, and then it would redirect the information to the user or the application. And this way, user is displayed with the right pages according to their authorization. End of the day, everything related to the authentication is offloaded to FusionAuth. As I told you, we will be doing things from scratch. So firstly, I will take my terminal and I will stop this development server so that we don't have this application running anymore. And I'll also delete the code related to the application that I have, and I will follow this documentation. Of course, I have implemented this couple of times, so I'm well aware of the steps to be followed. At any point of time, if you are stuck, don't worry. I will put the link in the description as well as the pinned comment so that you can also follow the notes while watching the video. Cool. So let's head back to the terminal now, and I will just go back and I will delete the FusionAuth directory. Great. Now, first of all, where do we have the source code for this Chase Bank application? So if you follow the documentation, there is a GitHub repository, and this GitHub repository is hosted in FusionAuth organization. So what we will do is we will clone this repository, git clone followed by the repository. FusionAuth quick start JavaScript React Web. For every application, every programming language, they have examples, and all of those examples are maintained in the FusionAuth organization. Perfect. Now let's cd to that directory. FusionAuth. Great. Now we are in the directory and we have all the files here. They have also added this folder called complete application. So if you are not interested in writing every file, if you're not interested in building the application from scratch, and if you just want to try out FusionAuth very quickly, so you can cd to the complete application. You have all the files of the application along with FusionAuth logic. So you just need to run npm run dev, npm install, npm run dev, and you will have the Chase Bank application with logic readily available. However, let's focus on building things from scratch. There are only two prerequisites for this demonstration. One is you should have npm running, and make sure you have at least node version of 18, and then you should have Docker installed and running. Let's verify on my machine if I have Docker as well. So Docker PS, perfect. So I also have Docker installed and running. Again, one final time, the prerequisites and everything that we are following is available in the documentation. Cool. So now that we have the repository as well and we have the source code files, let's start with running FusionAuth. So we will run FusionAuth using this Docker Compose file. If you actually run ls and look out for the hidden files, you will find the .env file as well. And this .env file has the information of FusionAuth Postgres database, the user, and all the information to kickstart FusionAuth. There is also this folder called Kickstart, and this Kickstart folder has some JSON files which starts FusionAuth with the default settings. Right? Cool. So we will run Docker Compose up-d. What is this going to do? So this will start the FusionAuth database related to everything that it is going to maintain. And it will also have some volumes as well as network that is required to run FusionAuth. Okay. Now that all the containers are running, and now that we also have the networks available, let me head to the browser and verify this. So you can verify on localhost 9011. Perfect. I can see FusionAuth is running. If I click on this lock icon, I also have the login page. This is not the login page for the application. Remember, this is login page for the FusionAuth admin console. So you can use admin@example.com and password as the user. Now this is the FusionAuth admin console. You can find tenants, as many tenants as you need. You can keep adding the tenants. You can maintain the users. Right now, by default, Richard is the user that is created. If I want to add a user, I can just add Abhishek as a user. So let's say Abhishek@example.com. Username is Abhishek. Mobile number, I will leave it as blank. I will set a password here. So I'll just say some random password that meets the requirements. Similarly, confirm the password. Great. Everything is fine. Click on save. And we have a new user created as well. Now, if we go to the users, so along with Richard user, we also have Abhishek as a user. This way we can create number of users, we can create groups, and we can manage users and groups through the FusionAuth admin console. So this is where data privacy security comes into picture. You have this standalone instance running on your machine, and you have the complete control of it. Okay. So we have FusionAuth running, not the application. Let's go back to the terminal and now focus on running the application. Okay. So what are the next steps? Firstly, because this is a React application, we will start with running npm create. So I'm running npm create Vite latest change bank, and I'm using some default templates. So what is this going to do? Basically, this is going to create a basic React application with Vite server, right? So it does not have the login page, logout page at this point of time, but it has the default files for a React application. What I'm going to do is I'm going to update veetconfig.ts file with running the server on port 3000. So by default, it does not run on port 3000. So I'll just update the port to run the application on 3000. Okay, this is great. Now let's head with adding the default pages. So for that, I will be using the FusionAuth SDK as well as the React SDK. So npm install, I'm going to install both the React Router SDK, React Router package, and FusionAuth React SDK. Then we will be adding the main TypeScript file, and when we are going to add home app.tsx, we will be using the FusionAuth React SDK. So this will take time, maybe less than a minute, but make sure you wait till the installation is complete. Okay, now I'll be adding the main.tsx file. So I'll create src vim, or let me just check. Okay, I already have src. So within src, I'm going to update the main.tsx file, that is TypeScript file, with this particular code. What are we doing here? Nothing specific. We are just updating the FusionAuth details, that is the tenant details that we got. So whenever we installed FusionAuth, we got these default details, and I'm updating these details in the main.tsx file so that an integration is set up. Okay. Now that we have this, let's go ahead with creating the important files such as the home page and creating the login and logout page. For creating the home page, firstly, I will copy the assets that are required. So using the copy command, I'll get the index CSS and basic assets information, and then I can create the home page first. So I'm creating everything from scratch. Instead, if you are interested, you can directly go with complete application folder. But I want to show you from development point of view. If you are a developer and if you are working on this change bank application, this is how simple you can do it. Firstly, again, the home page application, I'm not writing it all. I'm just copying it. The basic home page without any fancy things. Only thing is that I'm using FusionAuth React SDK in it. Cool. So we got the home page ready. Now let's set up the account page. So basically within this application, we will have in the Chase Bank application, we will just have an accounts page, and we will have make changes page. So for the accounts page, again, we will head to src pages followed by account pages. So I'll name it as account pages.tsx. And within this, I will write a random account. I mean, whenever someone logs into their account, it will just show random balance within the account. So I'm using math.random here, or within the demo application, they are using math.random. Cool. Then once the account page is ready, as I told you, we will also have a make change page so that whenever someone wants to calculate the change, they can use this make change page. So again, vim src pages make change page dot tsx. Cool. So if you are good at TypeScript, you can see how simple are these pages and how we are not adding a lot of code related to the authentication system. Only thing that we are doing is we are importing the FusionAuth React SDK. Not many changes related to it, right? So in this page, we just used use FusionAuth so that whenever someone tries to access this page, we are just ensuring they are logged in. Okay, perfect. So we also have the make changes page. And finally, we will head to adding the actual authentication logic, right? So now we will need to add the complete authentication code. For that, I will head to the SRC. Within components, I will create a new file called logo header.tsx. So here we will define the login, logout button. So basically logo header with respect to the authentication. Once the user logs in, access the homepage, my bad, they can look at this. Along with this, we will also implement a menu bar. Again, a basic menu bar within the components. So src components followed by menu bar.tsx. Now that we have set up menu bar and also logo header, let's update app.tsx, the main application TypeScript file, with the complete integration part. So we are basically tying up things here. So within the app.tsx, where we already have this code, I'm just updating it with the components and also the pages that we added, such as home page, account page, and make change page. Right now, this does not have all of that information. So I'll delete these lines within the application, right? And I will be updating lines related to our new application. So we are importing logo header from the components, menu bar from the components, home page, account page, and make change page. Great. Now that we have also set up app.tsx, we can finally go ahead and run npm start dev. Of course, if you're running it for the first time, make sure you run npm install. Okay, now it's time to run npm run dev, which will start the development server, and we should have the Chase Bank application with login flow handled by FusionAuth. Okay, let's go ahead and access the application on localhost. Okay, so perfect. So we have the application running on port 3000, and when I click on login, so let me try. Cool, because we have already logged in with admin@example.com. It has taken up the same thing. We logged into FusionAuth and the same authentication is working here. So what I'm going to do is I will take a private window this time. And within the private window, let's try to access localhost colon 3000. Okay, this time I will try login. Perfect. So it asks for email and the password. Let's try with the new user that we have created, Abhishek@example.com. Okay, let's see if it can handle. I will just provide a wrong password. So let me just give it something random and submit. Perfect. It says invalid login. Let me also try providing the right password, but choosing a wrong user. Okay, I have provided the right password this time, but I will change the user. Again, it was able to handle it. Cool. So let me this time provide right user as well as right password. Great. So it showed a random account balance, the logic that we wrote. And if I click on make change, I can just provide some random details and click on make change. So it says $12 with 240 nickels and 0 pennies, right? So this is how easy it is to implement the login flow if you're using FusionAuth. Once again, I would highly recommend you to go through the documentation. They have taken a lot of care explaining how to install and configure FusionAuth for web applications, single page applications, mobile applications, and also backend APIs. you can almost find every programming language and every framework that you are looking for. If you are interested in FusionAuth, I would also recommend checking out the pricing plan. The community version is perfectly fine. We have also used the community version. It's self-hosted as well. But at any point, if you want to upgrade and if you want to go for advanced features like advanced MFA, that is multi-factor authentication, you can go for this starter plan, essentials, also enterprise plan. If you're interested in FusionAuth Cloud, you can also definitely look at it. So this is about single tenant hybrid deployment model, and this is about downloadable customer identity and access management through FusionAuth. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. See you all in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.